Look at the man stretch it out like that till we're ready. It's a market recap show. I am a better looking version of Shawn. Just kidding. I'm not Shawn. It's me. It's me. Shawn having the day off. As I've said a few times here, he just needed a few extra, CO2 and some smoke detectors in the house that I'm sure he's installing today. I guarantee you, here's the thing. He said this on the podcast that he needed more of those, and check it out. The podcast was absolutely fantastic. I listened to it over the weekend. But I promise you, I bet you guys even money Mr. Katina bought and sold something today. I know, and I wish we could make a bet about this, but we can't. Let's get into some things here because I think it's going to be pretty interesting. We got a couple of things closing after the close that are coming after the bell. GitLab, which I do not see is out just yet. We got Stitch Fix. Out of pure morbid curiosity, Context Logic also reports. I know nobody cares about them, but hey man, every now and then a penny stock is interesting to watch. So as everybody rolls on in here, did he dip by PanW today? Is that true, Mike? I didn't double check and I haven't had a chance to ask him. I do know he was looking at some fantasy football because there was some stuff in our chat about that. So I don't have anything just yet although I see a little bit of movement on the 15 here, or in the 3-minute chart, on GitLab. I'm not really seeing anything across the wire. I'll let you guys know if I do see some news when it comes to GitLab, and you guys will let me know when it comes out. We'll see that volume start to creep in. I do feel like everything starts out with Bitcoin. And because we can today, I'm going to look at IBIT. I know everyone's going to be talking about that fresh break of the $65,000 level, but we got ETFs now. And it behooves us to look at the ETFs when we're talking about this to get acclimated with it. So it's a strong move. All you have is consistent, strong buying in BTC starting after we had that dip to sell the news on the ETFs. You've been going higher and higher. Remember, the halving is coming up. We're now into March. That means we're about a month away. Usually a run up going into the halving, so we're seeing a little bit more of that. Because it's not its own sector, I wanted to start with that because the strength, oh my goodness, somebody bought UNG. Not me. This is a daily chart of natural gas. So when it's up 5% and leading the way, just note that the downtrend is not in any way, shape, or form even had a dent put into it. This thing is falling faster than the Chicago Bears' chances of getting anything good for Justin Fields. And if you're a football fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They need to trade him, and they can't seem to do it. There was a little bit of strength in GLD. I'm not going to get into that into too much depth because I know a certain somebody who is going to be doing one of these, tapping himself on the shoulder. We got the NOS boss coming in for Trader Talk, and he'll be talking about that name to be sure. Or he could just do like the Rob Van Dam and do one of those for himself on the call on gold. That was a good one. If you look at what was down today, what's going on, XLE? I like you. I love you. I think there's a place for energy. I know Shawn's been talking about it. I've recently bought both Occidental, more of a trade, and then I've been buying some Chevron on some dips, and it looks like it's on the chance to break out. The good news, despite the fact that XLE is one of the laggards down 1%, is you end up still holding out here. Like, you've been trying to break this next 87 level, but you're still holding the major moving averages, and you still have a chance for another leg into the upside. So it's not completely done. I think you're getting a bit of a consolidation effect, maybe a slowdown. It's been a very slow move to the upside. Like, what are you going to do when OPEC's like, we're still trying to raise prices by cutting production, and the market doesn't really care yet? It's because tech is super hot, and no one cares about energy when that's happening. We got the uranium, we got the URA pulling back here. However, this had been on a pretty good run. So URA still looking like it's trying to find another step to the upside in the midst of this pullback. A little bit of a red day today, but it did hold on to a previous support level. So that can be worth watching. You're on the precipice of a trend reversal. Getting back above 28 is going to be pretty important over here. So I want to make sure of that. GTLB, is GitLab out yet? I haven't seen it across the wire. Oh, it's out now. Oh, we down now. GitLab, $65. Well, they said 21%. They didn't say which way it was going to be, and obviously it's to the downside. The 20% move would give you 75 into that $60 level. Looks like it's already hit. I don't have it on Benziga. I'm going to pull it up on Twitter if I can't get it in a second. But suffice to say, they have probably had a miss, and certainly guidance is going to be an issue here for GitLab. When you get these growthier type names, like a GTLB, it's going to be all about the guide. So I've got revenue was 164. That looks like it was good. Operating margin of 21%. Yeah, the net loss was still, net loss of 23 cents a share is going to be a bit of the issue here. So it's that loss that they're getting into. But at the end of the day, I mean, the sales did beat. They did beat the expectations. But yeah, that's swinging into a loss. I haven't seen the guide just yet for GitLab. They're down, bouncing off that 60 level, which makes some sense. We always talk about this. When you look at that implied move, and when you look at these dip buying levels, $60 in here was a higher low and a key support on GitLab. And then you factor in the 20% move from about 75, and you're going to get yourself into that 60. It's got to hold 60. I think they are a trickier name. This is not PanW. You don't just say, I'm sitting on the bid here on a PanW. You can't really do that for a GitLab. It's a little bit too weak for it. I haven't seen anything just yet with regards to Stitch Fix. That said, it's probably not as big of a name for most people. Oh, wait a minute, they might have just hit as well. Stitch Fix just hit, and it's downside again. This one was spicy for a potential breakout. Definitely spicy through 350, but you got to trade what's in front of you. They were expected a 16% move, and you've more or less gotten that 33 down into like $3 here. So 330 down into $3, holding underneath that. So you're going to get the expected move to the downside on both of these names. That said, they've got decent short floats. You can always get some kind of a relief rally. It could be a sign of the time. We talked about this at the end of the day when the Qs couldn't hold on to those highs. And I didn't love the fact, like, what happened at the end of the day on the NASDAQ. What happened at the end of the day on SMCI, AMD, NVIDIA, ARM, go through the entire list. You couldn't hold on to those bids, and now you get a couple of, and GitLab probably more so than Stitch Fix. You get some other chinks in the armor as that market is heading into the downside. Just couldn't really hold on to that strength. I do want to get into a trade this morning. And I wanted to show you guys something because before Michael comes on here, and I don't want to waste all our time on this, but I think this one's an important one. And this is, I'm not just doing this for myself, I'm doing this for everybody. I'm going to try and pull this up. I don't know if I can zoom this in. There we go. I could have gone to my Twitter, but I wasn't logged in over here. It's the fastest way I could do it. SMCI. Expecting the 1080 level as failed break and look for a dip off of it. Now, okay, so Apple looking for a trend short. It never got to 180. I couldn't short it. But I did short it at the first available level. It was weak under that price. We got the short on Apple eventually. NVIDIA passed the $2 trillion mark. I was looking for dip buys, 830, 825, 817. You didn't see any of those today. But I did find some longs on NVIDIA and AMD anyways. Tesla, same levels as last week. I did try the 98 long with a 30-cent stop. I did not reverse. That was a mistake, but at least I was trading it. I didn't trade SMCI, and this was part of the plan. Expecting a 1080 for a failed break and then buy the dip. So when you've got a plan like that, and this happens, now why, first of all, let's get into why. Just very quickly, why was I think it was a failed break at the 1080 level? It was testing, going into the S&P 500, it was testing a fresh top. Testing fresh high, I thought there'd be a dip off of that price, and then you'd have a chance at a rip. And that is basically exactly what happened. I don't have my fail key over here. I have a bunch of other keys. I don't have the fail. This stock, right away at the open, this is it. This is at 930. It pops, goes right to 1080, pulls back into the pre-market high, and then rips. It then rejects again a little bit higher and pulls right back into the pre-market high and then rips. This didn't give you one chance for the fail breakout at 1080, then buy the dip. It gave you two chances, and they set up technically. And I don't know why I didn't trade it. The reason I didn't trade it is because I'm just more comfortable trading AMD. I'm more comfortable trading NVIDIA. I'm more comfortable trading Intel. Sometimes the trader, you've got to step out of your comfort zone when an A+ setup presents itself. So that's a big lesson for everybody. I learn something every day from the market. When an A+ setup is there, step outside of your comfort zone if you have to be able to do it. That was a fail not taking that at SMCI. It was exactly the move that I was anticipating. It even happened the way that I wanted it to, and I still didn't take it. So it's a bit of a trade check for something I didn't do. I could have talked about what did work in AMD or what did work in NVIDIA, but I wanted to talk about the biggest opportunity that I did not end up taking, and that is going to be that SMCI trade. We talk about this all the time. As a trader, if you want to grow, you've got to step out of that comfort zone. You look for setups that work for you, but the way to step up isn't necessarily to do a bunch of stuff that doesn't work. It's to find other places to apply the things that do work. So in stocks that you might not normally trade that are moving a bit more, you apply that setup. And then Bob is your uncle. Just before we go into, before we get to my good friend, who I know is going to be patting himself on the back, which is fine, once or twice. I'll let you do it 3 times, Michael, before you come on. I want to get to GitLab. GitLab is actually holding the bounce off that 60 level, but down around that 65. So watch out. It wasn't that bad top and bottom, but the rejection here on GitLab, that was the most notable earnings name. We'll get NEO and Target before the bell tomorrow. I think NEO's in some trouble. That $5 level is going to be key where they can hold it. But you don't have to worry about this man's calls holding levels. Oh, I have to hit the button first? I was like, now you've just killed my train of thought, Ram. I had this whole incredible and just unbelievably nice and thoughtful intro for whatever. It's fine. I'll hit the trader talk. You're kidding. You're killing me. Michael, which camera am I looking at? You can't switch cameras on me, Fabian. It used to be over here, and now I'm looking over here. So what I was gonna say is, Michael, you made a lot of good calls in the past, as we already know.
Good ones, a lot of bad ones too, but we'll just focus on the good ones.
Well, look, at the end of the day, I do this all the time as a trader, and I probably said this to you before. I sometimes enjoy talking first about what I've learned from the losing trade because it excites me more than celebrating a winner. And over the years, I've just found I've gotten more out of doing that, and I have a bad habit of doing it on the show because I always find it productive, so I'm not really celebrating winners enough. But that's just me. Yeah. You've got one to talk about here today, so let's get right into it.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on gold this morning. So if you're not tuning in to the morning show, you definitely should. But yeah, I was on this morning and basically doing a breakdown in gold. I'll refresh for people the ideas behind it. And we did have a good continuation day. So I want to start with the monthly chart. And again, we have it here in the picture-in-picture. I need to get Neal to switch over to his browser charts at some point so we can get you guys on that cool stuff. But zooming out on the monthly chart, the idea is, and if you've been following me when I've been on the show, any number of times I've talked about gold and this giant cup and handle that we're seeing here with this massive cup and this handle that's taken place for about a year. And that's looks like it's finally breaking out after in 2020, I'm showing right here in this first candle, all the way to date. It keeps getting rejected in this kind of 195 area. So when I was doing my scanning last week, where you can see all of the ETFs I have here, I do go through each of those at the end of every week on a weekly chart. We actually made a new weekly all-time closing high in gold. So that always gets my attention, and especially so when this area was one that was rejected so much going back again to that 2020. Every time we got up here, it got rejected. So that put it on my watch list, and I picked a couple gold names for you guys this morning. One of this was GROY, which will go here, which was breaking out today and did have some good continuation. So I did get involved in this GROY around 175 or so. But the underlying synopsis, and regardless of how you want to play it, is if we are going to see gold finally break out of this, I think, 12 to 14 year base at this point, I'm going to be looking for a way to get involved and to see if I can hold it, just in case we're into a next kind of giant cycle on gold.
So, first of all, congratulations. It was a great call. But I wanted to specifically just the GROY trade. I wanted to ask a question about this one because as a non-swing trader, and some traders that watch the show, they're day traders. We have some swing traders. Some people don't even do either, and maybe you're just investing and you're here to learn. We're trying to cover all of our bases here. So for yourself, I heard you mention the 175. When I look at the daily chart here, and everyone's going to have a different look. Let me get rid of the picture-in-picture. Try and zoom it in. Like, this is a stock that was already, like, we talk about stairs to the upside. Like, this was stair step up, break the range, consolidation. And now you're, like, if you're in at 75, this could be breaking it back out. So I always wonder targets in a situation like this, stop placement. whether or not you're looking for it to, like, you use anchored VWAP a lot. I noticed this just did have a bit of a, like, if you look at what this did in the middle of February, there was a pretty significant upward move, and I don't wonder if you don't slap an anchored VWAP off a breakout like that. What is your approach to that trade specifically, if you could tell us?
Well, so I did do that anchored VWAP, and I have it right here on my chart here. This purple line that's coming up right here, that is the anchored VWAP, and that was one of the reasons for it. And the reason I chose this candle in particular to anchor it on, as you were talking about, Neil, this to me is the breakout candle. And Brian Shannon always talks about the candle that changes the idea behind the stock, right? That really shakes that action up. And this was a gap up out of a beaten up stock that was in a downtrend. And this to me was the first sign that things were changing. So we came back and almost to the penny held that a few days ago. And then, yes, I bought this breakout. So for me, I'm a close to close trader. So I generally evaluate my positions on or near the close. So something like GROY will be, if it broke tomorrow back down into this pattern, I'm just going to get out right away. And that would be a really microscopic loss on the grand scheme of things. When it comes to profit taking, the only thing that I've figured out to do is the same thing that you guys do as day traders, is you sell in parts. So if I get a move, tomorrow that's another significant up move, I'd probably take out a third or half the position. And then I like to use moving averages for a trailing stop. So you no moving average is special. You pick one that makes sense for your time frame. For me, it's usually either the 8 EMA or the 21 EMA. And again, no special reason for that other than one is going to follow price very closely if I want to be in a shorter term trade, and one's going to follow price a little bit further away if I want to give it a little wiggle room and be a longer term trade. So a name like this, where if I think that gold is going to break out here, that we could have a multi-week or a multi-month run, I may pick the 20-day moving average or the 21 EMA or something and just say, as long as it doesn't close below that, I want to stay in. Because for me and the way I trade, my advantage as a swing trader is that if something wants to go for months, I want to find a way to be in it for months because I can have that advantage of time. Whereas day traders, that's something that you have to kind of battle against.
Absolutely. And just for everyone out there, like, it's you hear it a lot. Sometimes it's the 9, but like the 8 and 21. If you're a short-term trader, the best way to think about the 8 and 21, I don't use them anymore. There were points in my career that I did, but the 8 and 21 for day traders and swing traders, just think of it like the 50 period and the 200 for the long term. It's like those are the first two moving averages that people tend to look at, and like you kind of find things from there. But it's important what you said. Find what works for you, and then go from that point. I can't say that enough. Just because the 8 and 21 is something that works for you, Michael, I know you do a lot of back testing and a lot of charting to make sure that you're taking things that make sense. Make sure everyone's doing that as well.
Yeah, it's all time frame. So a buddy of mine that works at Trade Ideas, he uses the 10 SMA, and that's his bread and butter, and that's his entire trading strategy is around the 10 SMA. But yeah, you're right, it works for him, and you need to make sure that it works for you and your hold time. If you're someone who thinks this GROY is going to be a multi-month or a multi-year hold, then using something like the ADMA is going to get you chopped out. So yeah, it's finding the time frame for the trade and then finding the moving average that makes most sense for that time frame. So there's that. Some people use AVWAPs for trailing stop. There's people who just use ATR trailing stops. There's all kind of advanced ways you can do it. But yeah, you just want to find something that says, okay, this is giving me the opportunity to hold on if the trade continues the way that I think it's going to. And then if it doesn't, it's going to get me out for some sort of a gain on a reversal.
That's what it's all about. And I had to let you know this one because Shawn was off today. I was hosting the show with Obi. And this morning, Obi has a big note. Like, Shawn has sticky notes. I use like an iPad. And then Obi has like an old school, like big notebook that he uses. And I was going through it. He let me look at it. And guess what tool Obi is starting to use on a daily basis for some of his entries and exits? I'll give you one guess, Michael.
An anchored VWAP? Is he getting into that?
Oh,
nice.
yeah. And what's interesting about it is it's like you said. Now, when we first were introduced to it, I know when I was reading the book, like the easiest and most obvious place to use is like, okay, well, post earnings, right? Like that's what is a moment where now you want to anchor to something while everyone's making some decisions after a stock has earnings, or maybe you get like an Apple event, something really obvious. But the point that you made about that, you said it more eloquently, but the candle that changes everything. You know, when you look at a chart and it's like, well, that changes everything. And I didn't even have to know what was going on with that GROR. I just looked down at the daily chart. Well, that changes everything. That's where you start your VWAP from. And that's exactly how he's been applying it. And it's been working for him. We were talking about how he's been growing in the last couple of months. And that's one of those things. When you find that change candle, slap an anchor VWAP, and you can find it at Trade Ideas, which he also uses, by the way.
Yeah, and I brought up the one of the scans that we did here just for a little bit of a plug. And if you're always confused on where to anchor your VWAP to, that's actually something we've solved in the system. So I hung out with Brian. We built this together. It's a product in conjunction with Brian. But if you just go to my chart real quick, we have that particular scan, and this scan is for stocks that are pulling back to an anchored VWAP from a large volume spike. So here's this ASPN, and the dark purple line is always going to be the anchored VWAP. And as I click through, you can see it's drawing that for me because, you know, for me, and this took me a long time for Brian to convert me. I've known him for many, many years. But the more I played, and for me, it was actually building because I did all the mathematics into the system with this. That changed it for me entirely because I kept seeing things getting to an anchored VWAP. Here's CIB, which is a commercial bank. Through 4 days in a row, it's come down to this anchored VWAP from the earnings and bounced off. So it's one of those, the more you see it, the more you're like, okay, I've got to get involved in this. And with all the respect I have for Brian Shannon as the godfather of anchored VWAP, I think Obi's going to be really, really impressed with that. And it kind of sets them apart because I've noticed there's not a lot of day traders using this. And I really think it's been relegated to the trading time frame, but I would love to see some day traders plotting these anchored VWAPs out, using support and using them as support and resistance, and then coming up with like a day trading plan around them. I think there'd be a really interesting edge to be had there.
I put the challenge to Shawn and myself for finding some of that out. You know how it goes sometimes. Traders get comfortable.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what works for you. And sometimes it gets, I've been doing it way too long. It's really easy to just continue to do what works. And I was mentioning this actually, as a matter of fact, I missed a big trade on SMCI today, despite like it did exactly what I wanted it to do, but I hate trading that stock because of the way it has the spreads and it's a $1,000 name, and it's like you can size differently, fine, that's all well and good. I just don't like the way that it trades. But you've got to be able to step out of your comfort zone. So you're 100% right. You want an edge in trading. It's not always enough to have a couple of plans that work. The market's always changing, and if you can be a step ahead, like Obi's trying to do, which is working for him, by the way, with anchored VWAP. I think that's fantastic. Can I before I get some last ideas from you, because I know you always do. Have you noticed this XLF continued breakout on the weekly?
I have. I can bring that up right now, and this to me is my argument for people who are talking about, you know, it's only 7 stocks, it's an AI-driven rally, all of these different things that you hear perma bears say on Twitter. But I actually bring this XLF to their attention. This is, you know, you can't have a rally, in my opinion, in the U.S. stock market without banks, right? There's such a large component of the US market. And we're, you know, even more so in the S&P 500, this XLF has been dramatically outperforming all of these individual sectors other than XLI, which is another one that's interesting, which is industrials. And for me, it's XLF, which is financials, and XLI, which is industrials. Those have as little to do with AI as I think physically possible, but are showing massive, massive gains and massive breakouts. So for me, I love to see this because in bull markets, you want these sectors to catch up. You know, you can have bubbles when it comes to Ozempic plays and AI plays and all that. But when it comes to industrials, the people that build stuff, if they're doing well, and the people that finance the people that build things are doing well, then to me, that makes me a little bit more comfortable that this is a bull market and not some, you know, mania fused rally.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. People get so complacent. What's weird is, and this is normal, you get a lot of complacency in bull markets. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Everyone's always looking for where the top might be. No matter how long you're in the trading game, that absolutely never changes. I'm guilty of it myself. Shawn and I talk about this all the time. You're always, oh, I'm going to sell this stock, and ARM is overvalued, I'm going to sell it, and then after I sell it, it's 20% higher. Oh, we're not at the top yet, like that kind of a thing. It's perfectly normal for that. But like, I think you do have a little bit more of a breadth than you might think. You could argue about the Russell slowing down a bit, but there is some strength out there. So any final thoughts that you might have before we get you out of here to start this week? Great call on gold. I love this XLF. I think a lot of people are going to at least look at Anchor VWAP. And I want to point one thing out. As I keep saying, and I like repeating this, an indicator is a good start.
Yes.
You've got to tailor it to your own trading strategy. You've got to put the time and effort into back testing and finding execution strategies for yourself. Michael's been doing this a very long time, and he's put that time and effort in. I don't want anyone to think it's easy, but you've got to start with something that gives you an edge and just put that time and effort in there. That's why I tout things like that, and I tout things like Trade Ideas for getting you a start.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, your comment on always trying to find the top. I always bring myself back. I think it's a Peter Lynch quote that there's more money lost in predicting the bear market than the bear market itself. So I love that quote, and I say it to myself all the time because you're right. When things are going very well, especially I think as seasoned traders, you're looking for that other shoe to drop and to say, okay, at some point we all know the fun ends. But the question is, are you going to be one to kind of leave the party early or are you going to just stay until the party closes down and maybe that last, 20 minutes of the party is no longer fun? But I always love that quote, more money lost anticipating the bear market than the bear market itself. And on the indicator talk, I just can't agree more. They are indicators. They are meant to indicate something. So there's nothing wrong with saying I'm only going to buy stocks above a rising 200-day moving average. That's a great filtering mechanism. It's a great indicator, but it doesn't mean you buy every stock above a rising 200-day moving average. It means you have a plan to when you're going to buy stocks and why you're going to buy them, and then that's one thing to like filter them out. So I did want to leave you with two sectors. However, one I have up on the screen here right now, and this is KRE, and this is regional banks. And I know this is kind of scary right now with what's happening to another bank out there, but I was shocked when I was going through my scanning how well the regional bank index was actually holding up, considering that New York Bancorp thing is just absolutely falling out of bed. And speaking of anchored VWAP, I anchored a VWAP from this really significant low that we had in October, and we're holding that area right there. So, if you want to be quote unquote safer, I think the KRE, which is a diversified basket of regional banks, is a good way to go. If you want to be a little riskier, maybe you go pick some regional banks as well. And then this is just something kind of food for thought where UNG seems to be bouncing here. We have this low at $18 a share. I'm not going to do anything until we retake that low of $18 a share. But if you look at the monthly chart I have here in the bottom left-hand corner, our picture-in-picture charts, this was 121 down to 17. So at some point, we're going to have a pretty massive rally here. I don't know if it's right now, but I was very interested to see that it was kind of leading the ETF race for me today.
They call it the Widowmaker for a reason, natural gas. Because if you get it right, you're going to get it right, and it's going to trend forever. But hey, it's a lot of traders are peaking their interest, and I'll have some notes on KRE as well. I actually like that's a good setup, and the fact that it's holding up as well as it is with NYCB and their news is a big one. Shout out to you. Thank you. It's always good having you on. Great call with gold this morning and the setups that we had. We'll talk again on Friday and maybe recap some of those. So best of wishes for the rest of the week. Hopefully your trades all end up well like they are starting the week, Michael.
Well, thanks for having me, and thank you for not bringing a storm to the Maritimes, because every time it's the two of us on, I have to go shovel afterwards. So I'm just going to be grateful that I don't have to do that today.
Enjoy, man. I got to get out east. I wasn't there long enough. The next time I'm out there, we'll grab a beer together. I love it out in Halifax. But enjoy the rest of the week there, Michael. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Talk to you later.
See you, brother. Which camera am I going to after this? That's what I want to know, Ram. This one? I stay at the same camera, so I don't get to go to the other camera anymore? Well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's fun to just do the whole I'm a professional. No, Ram, you gotta when I'm going. Okay, now you're just messing with me. I want to get the roll call. Before I get to the roll call, Where am I? Oh, I'm looking at this camera. You had me looking at a camera. There's like 3. You tricked me. But before I get to the roll call, I wanted to say something about that KRE because what most people don't know about new NYC Bancorp is they basically are, like, they do all of the lending for the rent control names in New York, which of course is a bit of a depressed sector. So there's a chance that there isn't a lot of contagion to some of the other regional banks with this NYCB thing. It might be localized. Again, this is just what smarter people than me have been saying. So I think that puts some weight into the call that Michael Noss was saying. Let's get some roll call in here because we got some people, we got our peeps in the chat here. What up? I see, HPDS saying thank you, Michael. I hope you're still, I don't know if you can still hear that. Hopefully he has some good weather out there. Monty G, what up? I love the after shows. You rock, Monty. We love you. TH, you're right. Shout out to you. Ram is messing with me. That's how she rolls. Easy Trader. Silva the Blue. We love you. Viral HX. We got Richard fan. I'm a fan of Richard too, all the Richards out there. The Boring Man, what up? B. Davis, Chef Joe in the house. I'm hungry right now, Chef. I don't even know what's for dinner tonight, but I'm going to eat a ton of it because I'm absolutely starving. Didn't have enough salad today at lunch. Henry Chung, what up? Derek Thompson, Angry Bear. My daughter loves the Angry Bear books. There's like this guy, like Nick Bland, writes them. He's some Australian guy, and they're absolutely fantastic. Happy Zombie, Pranya in the chat. We got Mr. Westermeyer. I will do that challenge if you send us a new 8-ball. Big Kyle Burdett, what up? Louis Sick just gifted me $5K. I'm spinning it right now. Spin 5,000. Let's see if it wins. I'll see what happens. Who else we got here? Streamlabs. Oh, it didn't work? I just spun and it didn't give me the points. I'm probably going to lose them. Mr. MacArthur, Captain Jane, the MVE. What up? Who else we got? Neil MacArthur. You don't spell it the right way, but you're cool in my books because I love the name Neil for obvious reasons. Joe Schmo in the house. I loved the Joe Schmo show. Most people don't know about that hidden gem. It is absolutely hilarious, the Joe Schmo show. Fabian and Ramin will have no clue what I'm talking about because they're both very young. Billy Turner, Sailor Moon, Sabu in the chat, Bright Awakening. Who else we got? Ponzi in the house. What up, Ponzi? Mo Fun, Cryo X. I'm trying to get to everybody, but we're kind of running out of time here. And I did want to end with a question because I was too busy over the weekend and it was sold out anyways. I didn't get a chance to see Dune 2. So, you guys got to let me know. Is this a, Neil, find a way to watch it as soon as possible, it was so damn good, get there next week, or you're going to be a bit disappointed, just wait till you can watch it at home. So you guys let me know what I got to do here. DJ Quill just said ATL in the house. What up? I've only been through Atlanta. I need to get down to the ATL at some point. But you guys let me know. I'm just, maybe DM me or something. I want to hear about Dune from our crew. I just want to read about other people and what they think about it. I want to know in our community because we all like kind of the same thing. So you guys let me know if it is going to be a good one. We're going to get out of here. It's been absolutely fun. I love doing the afternoon show in Shawn Stead. We make sure we give you the real here. And that's why we have Real Trading. Because we're real traders, and it can't be a better brand. Make sure you check out that podcast. When you leave here, there were some jokes. I don't want to spoil anything, but there was some funny stuff on the podcast. At least I thought it was funny. And a lot of good content as well, talking about the Bitcoin move. So you can check that out. We'll be back tomorrow morning to trade some post-GitLab and Target earnings. We'll also get in the tomorrow morning where we may get NEO in the morning. That should be very spicy. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm Neil in Shawn Stead, and it's been a blast, and I'll see you tomorrow.